The question of death is a question that is ever present in poetry and especially ever present in Emily Dickinson poetry. But what we have today is a poem about death that does not, if you will, ring true to the poet's previous and successive attempts at commenting on the big stop. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for a poetry discussion, which will appear, of course, in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now approaching 750 videos strong, and number two being the Emily Dickinson playlist, a playlist of poems dedicated exclusively to the greatest poet that ever was. The poem in question today is known as A Clock Stopped, and it reads as such. A clock stopped, not the mantles. Geneva's farthest skill can't put the puppet bowing that just now dangled still. And awe came on the trinket, the figures hunched with pain, then quivered out of decimals into degreeless noon. It will not stir for doctors, this pendulum of snow. The shopman importunes it, while cool, concernless, no. Nods from the gilded pointers, nods from seconds slim, decades of arrogance between the dial life and him. Now, if you go and you search out meanings for this poem, you go and you search, what are people saying about this poem? What is this poem about? How do you explain this poem from Emily Dickinson? A clock stopped analysis. You go and you find those things. Mostly what they're going to tell you is that this is about death. It's a poem about death. It is a poem about dying. It is Emily Dickinson talking about no longer being on this mortal coil. I don't think that I agree. And there's a few reasons here. Number one, Emily Dickinson was not afraid to write about death. Now, this is not to say that Emily Dickinson could not employ a metaphor for death, but I don't think that she often really felt that it was necessary. I don't think that it is. I don't think that it is all that commonplace for Emily Dickinson to be talking about death in this obscure a fashion, um, without something more insightful than just the idea of death. And that is something that I take into this poem as consideration, that there is more going on than just death. The clock stopping is equal to a person dying. Is that true in this poem? Is that what this poem is about? I don't think so. I think it's about something slightly different than that. And for that, we got to go all the way down to the bottom of the poem. Nods from the gilded pointers on a clock. Nods from the seconds slim. Decades of arrogance between the dial of life and him. If someone is dying, that's a bit of a strange phrase. Decades of arrogance between the dial of life and him. The him is, we're left to assume, God, right? The clockmaker. Decades of arrogance between the dial of life and him. This will oftentimes be explained away as, well, decades are kind of a human scale of time, right? You have decades on this planet. Talking about weeks or days or months or even years doesn't make all that much sense. if you're talking about a human life scale. But when you pick decades, there's only a few in a person's life, and they can go pretty quick. So it is a sort of it is a reasonable human scale thing to talk about. But even then, that does not really make sense, because it's not talking about decades of arrogance. It doesn't say decades of arrogance and then you see him. No, it says decades of arrogance between the dial life and him. Meaning, to my reading, decades of arrogance between when that dial stops and when the person meets God. Well, that's kind of a weird phrase. What would that even mean? I think what this poem really is about is that you die twice in life. You die the moment you stop trying, or the moment you give up X, Y, and Z, or the moment you decide not to pursue A, B, and C. Whatever that moment is, it seems many people die then, and then they just kind of go on living. They're existing. What it says to me, decades of arrogance. What is the arrogance in question here? I think that this is the arrogance of the assumption that I have time. I have time. And so I'm not going to start today. I'm not going to do it today. I'm not going to get better today. I'm not going to be independent today. I have all the time in the world. So I don't have to. And because you make that decision, you're not living. You're not living until you make the decision to pursue, to go, to own, whatever it is. Many people never get there. And this assumption that I have time. I have time. I don't have to start today. Everything's going to be okay. I can start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow's tomorrow becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow's tomorrow becomes tomorrow. Becomes next week. Becomes next month. Becomes next year. Becomes by the time I'm 40. In that way, we die. In that way, we accept the limitations of who it is we have defined ourselves to be. In that way, we do die, but we will spend more decades of arrogance on this earth, assuming that there is still time. I can still get it done. I don't have to start yet. I think that what this poem is representing is the dual death that many of us go through. It's not just talking about dying, the way that a clock stops. Remember, that clock stopping is not that clock being destroyed. That clock stopping is simply that clock stopping. Your time stands still. It is not over. It is not gone. It is not buried. It is just standing still because you have not made the decision to attack. You have not made the decision to go through with whatever it is that you were put on this world to do, or whatever it is that you have decided is your purpose in life. That, I think, is what this poem is really about, not simply the idea of death, but the idea of being dead and going on living. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here on the channel, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers if you find yourself here by chance but not design. Literature is the only thing I do on this channel. There's poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.